All right, guys, welcome back in. It is Spence and Surge, and it is a Friday just before the college football playoff is ready to go out there and kick off in Norman, Oklahoma. We have some more news on the coaching front. You know, this time of year is fascinating. A ton of guys are entering the portal, so might even review a little bit of Josh Hoover tonight. We might do a video on that, but really, Danton Lynn from Southern Cal, the son of head coach Anthony Lynn, who coached for the Chargers. Now, Danton Lynn was a cornerback at Penn State from 2008 to 2012. Then he bounced around Canadian Football League. He played even for the New York Jets for a certain amount of time. He's in his mid-30s, so he's about 36 years old. He's pretty much in the prime of his coaching career as a defensive coordinator. And you're seeing a lot of coaches get hired like in their early 40s, even in their late 30s in some cases. In the NFL, that's really, the NFL is even hiring younger than colleges are. So the point is that I'm going to say about Danton Lynn is that I think he should stay at USC. Just looking at this from a perspective of, yes, I want to see what Lincoln Riley can do when he has a defensive coordinator that is really, really tied in to his scheme. And I want to see Lincoln Riley coach a football team without having an Alex Grinch defense, which gave up so many points. And USC has really, I think, taken a step in the years that they've been at this. I mean, they went 7-5 with Miller Moss. They lost a lot of one-score games in 2024. And then in 2025, they go 9-3. They have big wins in Lincoln, Nebraska. They beat Iowa at home. They end up beating UCLA to finish the year. So they go 9-3. The games that they lose a heartbreaker to Illinois. They get beat by Oregon pretty soundly, and then they had to play Notre Dame. And honestly, in the Oregon and Notre Dame game, they were kind of outclassed and did give up a lot of points, but they didn't get laughed off the field. And then that Illinois game, Luke Altmaier just went wild, and that game was back in September. The defense has really improved. I mean, I was very impressed when they were down like 14-0 to Iowa, for them to dig themselves out of a hole and win that game. Massive, because that was the difference between 8-4 and 9-3. So they showed poise. 9-3 is exactly where you should be if you're USC, because it's kind of a mini rebuild for Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley had the first year where he tried to patch it together and have a quick fix, and he did that. He had a successful year with Caleb Williams. They almost made the college football Final Four that year. It was looking like USC and Lincoln was going to be a huge hit. But then year two, it was a miserable year. Maybe 5-7. Alex Grinch was fired. And then he underwent the rebuild here with Danton Lynn. So the reason why I don't want to see Danton go to Penn State is not because I hate Penn State. It's because you look right now at Danton, and this is somebody that, you know, went from UCLA to USC after Chip Kelly, and this is someone who's poured sweat equity and poured his soul into building USC to be a tough football team. And they just have the number one recruiting class in the country. It was the first year working with Rob Ryan on that defensive staff, and you're bringing in studs now with Chad Bowden and with, you know, the new front office at USC, with the new athletic director, Jen Cohen. So you're embarking on what could be a golden age of USC football. I think that it would not be smart for him to kind of throw that opportunity away to go to a place in Penn State where, let's face it, They got rid of James Franklin in the middle of the season and had no concrete plan. Pat Kraft ended up trying to go out and swing for the fences with DeBoer and Mike Elko, and they ended up signing a coach in Matt Campbell that was signed after National Signing Day. So right now, this 2026 roster is absolutely a joke. It's in the hundreds. Freaking Virginia Tech, where James Franklin is, would probably be favored by 14 points if they were to play this iteration of Penn State. Now, I know that Penn State's going to get some transfers, okay? I know that they're going to get some transfers. So the part of why he would move to Penn State is because it tugs on his heartstrings. He's an alma mater of Penn State. He played there from 2008 to 2012. It's his alma mater. His father, Anthony Lynn, who he's very close with, obviously, is in Washington with the football team, the Redskins, the Washington football team, all right, whatever you want to call them nowadays. All right, I call them Washington Redskins, okay? He's coaching there with Dan Quinn. And State College is actually 3 hours from Washington, D.C. It's not too far of a ride. A lot of, even Penn State players go out and sometimes say that they hang out in D.C. for a couple of weekends. It's even closer than Philadelphia is Washington. So that is why he's probably considering this for those reasons. And he's probably close enough with Matt Campbell. I'm sure that they've had a relationship. I'm sure that in the college football world that they get along. The point is that he's building something so special at USC. He's worked there with Lincoln Riley. And if he were to stay here a couple of more years, this team can not only compete for a Big Ten championship and a playoff spot, if this recruiting class hits in about 2 or 3 years with a Lincoln Riley offense, with the type of quarterbacks that Lincoln has in there with Hassan Longstreet, the type of running back talent you're going to get out of the portal, the types of wide receivers that Lincoln's going to put on the field with the offense. I really, really like watching this team play offense, and now their defense is starting to play aggressive. And Danton Lynn is a really, really good defensive coordinator. You also have Rob Ryan, who's kind of like almost like a family member to the Lynn family there. I just think it's sunny California. You've been there, for a while with your family. It's rooted there. It's a comfortable situation. Maybe you get a little bit of a raise out of this kind of, out of this spark right here with this Penn State interest. But I think it's a no-brainer. If you go to Penn State with this roster completely being ravaged by the transfer portal and by no coach, you're not going to be at the spot USC is for probably about 3 or 4 years, even though it's your alma mater. And if you stay at SC, you could compete for playoff spots. Starting next year, you can compete for the college football playoff. Penn State can't do that. Within 2 years, you could compete for a conference title and maybe even making a run in the CFP for a national championship within 2 years. All right, with Lincoln Riley and this football team at Southern Cal. I think it's a pretty easy decision right here to stay at USC. From an unbiased point of view, that's what I believe. Now, a lot of Penn State fans are going to say, come build it at State College. It's home. Matt Campbell, you can build it up. But for Danton Lynn, say that it goes great, 2 or 3 years. You stick at SC for 5 years. You build something so special. Then you're going to get an A1 coaching job. I'm sure that Lynn this year was targeted by a lot of great group of 5 jobs, whether it be Tulane, whether it be Memphis, even some maybe high profile, P4 jobs, maybe Oklahoma State, maybe Arkansas. I'm sure that Lynn was involved, even though he's a young coordinator who's about 36 years old. I'm sure that he was involved in those searches. So at USC, if he wins it big, guess what? He is going to then become one of the hottest names in the 27-28 cycle, and bam, he's going to land an A-plus job. Think of it this year as like a Florida. If he was the defensive coordinator for a Big Ten winning USC, I mean, he'd be involved in the Michigan job. He can have his pick of the litter. He'd be the hottest candidate in college football. So I've laid out my reasons why I think Danton Lynn should stay. Their defense is really improving. You have the number one recruiting class. You have a 5-star linebacker coming into USC. You played pretty damn good defense this year against Michigan, against Iowa. 9-3 in a Big Ten schedule that is not the easiest. So you're building something, and why throw it away to be a part of the 108th ranked recruiting class at Penn State? This isn't a job where Penn State is stacked, Matt Campbell is there, and you're going to be the guy to put it over the top. You basically went to USC with Lincoln, and you're in the middle of turning it over, and why would you leave all the recruiting and all the work you've built up over these 2 years of building it just to see someone else come in and have the success upon the recruiting and the work that you've put in at Southern Cal? Let me know what y'all think about Danton Lynn.